Welcome to Workstudy Supervisor Training. You may or may not have supervised student workers in the past. This training has been put together to make sure that we are all on the same page when it comes to the work-study process and guidelines. All the forms involved in this process can be found on our website, hennepintech.edu/FA, under the Workstudy link. You may find it helpful to review these as you go through the training. We will go over the process of requesting and hiring Workstudy. We will also cover the rules and guidelines, how to complete timesheets, best practices, how to handle disciplinary issues, and how to handle questions and inquiries. If you have questions that come up while viewing this training, please write them down and feel free to contact NIDA at the Brooklyn Park campus or Kendra at the Eden Prairie campus. The first step is to request Workstudy hours for your department for the upcoming academic year. Be sure to check with your supervisor before requesting Workstudy. You will do this by completing the Workstudy request form under Faculty and Staff on HTC's website. You will need to log in using your CMS account login. If you are unsure as to your username and password, please contact NIDA or Kendra for assistance. On this form, you will not only request hours for your department, but you will also be creating the job description and inputting job qualifications. Be as specific as possible. This position will be posted to HTC's website for students to view and apply. There is no application to apply. Students will contact you directly to apply an interview. You may determine requirements for applications such as a resume and cover letter. Once a student has contacted you and expressed interest in the position, there are a few more things that need to be ironed out before you can officially hire them. There is an enrollment requirement of 6 credits or more for students to be able to work. They must also have been awarded Workstudy. This is something they can check in their eServices account. If a student does not have Workstudy, please have the student make an appointment to see NIDA or Kendra to determine if it is possible to add Workstudy to their award letter. If we are unable to do so, you will not be able to hire the student for work unless you are able to pay them out of department funds. If the student meets the enrollment requirement and has Workstudy or is being paid out of department funds, they need to make an appointment to see NIDA or Kendra to complete paperwork. Please have the student bring identity documentation so that we can complete the I-9 form for them. If you view the I-9 form, the third page lists acceptable documentation. Most students bring in their driver's license with their social security card or birth certificate. Both documents must be presented. Students also commonly bring a U.S. passport or permanent resident card. Once the paperwork has been completed, it must be signed off by the supervisor before it is returned to financial aid. On the Workstudy agreement, there is a section to be completed by the supervisor. It requires your printed name, signature, department, cost center code, Minsky printer ID for Eden Prairie supervisors, and employee tech ID. The tech ID number is now required as we move towards using e-timesheets for Workstudy. Per D2L Training Module 7 on Data Security Issues, use of the employee ID as an identifier is an appropriate practice because the ID numbers by themselves are public information. For the time being, until we move to e-timesheets, we are requesting that an alternate supervisor sign off on the agreement in case you are unavailable to sign off on the timesheet at the end of the pay period. Make sure that the first supervisor's signature is the supervisor who will be approving e-timesheets. Once you and your alternate supervisor have signed off on the bottom portion of the Workstudy agreement, the student should meet with NIDA or Kendra for a follow-up appointment, where paperwork will be finalized and copies will be given to the student. We will forward the information to payroll. Processing takes about 1 week. Students cannot work until you have a timesheet in hand for them. The day you get the timesheet, the student can start working. Setting their schedule and any training should be handled by the supervisor. All student employees are paid the same hourly rate of $9 an hour. We do not offer insurance coverage, but we offer information on MinSure and how to get insurance coverage on the Workstudy webpage. Students cannot work more than 20 hours per week, with the exception of breaks like spring break, winter break, and in some cases, summer break. During these periods, students can work up to 40 hours per week. Students cannot be working during scheduled class time. Keep a copy of their class schedule and be sure to cross-check it with their timesheets before submitting it. You should also be keeping track of the hours the student works as well as your department's allocation. We provide the student and supervisor with a copy of the payroll calendar. The calendar has 2 columns, one for you to record hours worked that pay period. The other column is to calculate the remaining hours. This calendar is available in 2 formats, an Excel spreadsheet and a printable document for tracking on paper. Just like you have your allocation for hours, students have an allocated dollar amount. It is important to track the student's usage because if you run out of hours or the student runs out of funds, the difference must come out of your department's budget. If while you are tracking these, you notice that your department allocation is running low, please contact Tim Jacobson, the financial aid director. If you notice that your student is running low on work-study funds, please contact NIDA or Kendra. Students cannot work unsupervised. This is also why it may be helpful to designate a backup supervisor. Please notify financial aid, NIDA or Kendra, as well as payroll when a student is no longer working in your area. Every semester, you must perform an evaluation with each student worker. You will find a performance evaluation form on the Workstudy webpage. While we cannot offer raises to students, you can offer some advice for professional development. It is also good to get feedback from the student on their satisfaction with their current position. You may use student workers during the summer months. You must contact NIDA or Kendra if you plan to keep your work-study through the summer. Department allocations and work-study fund allocations can continue until June 30th. In order to continue working until or after June 30th, the student must meet these requirements. They must be enrolled for summer term 6 credits or more, or be enrolled for the upcoming fall semester 6 credits or more. They must also have next year's FAFSA completed, and their financial aid file must be ready for an award letter. Once these requirements have been satisfied, the student needs to meet with NIDA or Kendra to do new work-study paperwork, as July 1st marks the beginning of a new fiscal year. Keep in mind, payroll takes about 1 week for processing. It is best to have the student set up their appointment sometime in mid-June so that they can transition smoothly into the next fiscal year. Be sure to complete your timesheets thoroughly. Include a start and end time for each shift, and record the total hours for the shift. The number of credits the student is taking must also be reported, and both the student and supervisor must sign it before submitting it to payroll. The supervisors listed on the work-study agreement are the only people who can sign off on timesheets. Students cannot work more than 8 hours per day. They must show a 30-minute lunch break for every 8-hour shift they work. Please complete timesheets in black ink only. Do not use pencil or red ink. Do not scribble over or cross out days that are not worked. Try to avoid using whiteout, but if necessary, put your initials next to the changes made. Be sure to submit the timesheets to payroll on time to ensure that your student workers are paid on time. Eden Prairie supervisors may fax or scan the timesheet in, but still need to submit the original copy to payroll. These are some best practices obtained from some of our well-seasoned supervisors. Setting clear rules, guidelines, and expectations right away. Have them written down and keep a copy for yourself and the student. Offer encouragement and tips on improvement. This may be the only work experience they will have before graduating. Have a task list of everything they need to be doing. Make sure to train them in on these things on the first day. Talk to them about the seriousness of data privacy if it applies to the position. We give them a confidentiality agreement to sign. A copy of this is given to the student and the supervisor. But you may want to further express its importance. contact HR to get D2L data privacy training uploaded to your student worker's D2L. In some cases, you may have disciplinary issues with your work study. Any disciplinary action is to be handled between you and the student. Attendance or tardiness tolerance is at your discretion and can determine dismissal. Any grounds for dismissal are at your discretion. Please allow adequate warning. For example, first, give them a verbal warning. If issues persist, give a written warning. At that point, if things haven't resolved, you could refer them to a counselor or dismiss them from further employment. If you ever have questions or disputes regarding a student worker, try to work things through with the student first. If you are unable to resolve the issue, contact NIDA or Kendra. We will get payroll involved if necessary. Students should not be contacting payroll directly. Financial aid and payroll do not get involved in disciplinary issues. If you need assistance, try getting a counselor involved, asking HR for advice, or talking to Jean Meyerhofer if necessary. We want your experience with Workstudy to be smooth and beneficial for you and the student. Ask questions and give us feedback. Thank you for participating in Workstudy Supervisor training.